Peace family, Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen, and your intergalactic interpreter, and I have pulled the true sidereal chart for this full moon. And we're also going to look at the sidereal chart. I honestly feel like it's just so much easier, to pull the sidereal chart instead of the true sidereal, but I have both pulled up and we're gonna talk a little bit about this astrology. I wanted to write a newsletter, but I just really haven't had time. It's finals and I have a lot of stuff on my plate. So the ascendant is in the sign of Leo. The south node is also in Leo in the first house. The moon is in Taurus in the 10th house, and it is opposing not only the sun in Scorpio, but it's also opposing Venus in Scorpio, as well as Mars in 𝗪𝗪𝗁. They're all in the 4th house. Mars in particular is making an aspect to Neptune and Saturn. Neptune is retrograde, and they are both in, well, it looks like actually Neptune is 0 degrees of Pisces. No, excuse me. They're both in Pisces, but it looks like Neptune is in 0 degrees of the 8th house, whereas Saturn is in the 7th house. And as you know, they're only about 5 degrees apart because they are still locked in a conjunction. We also have the North Node in the 7th house in the sign of Aquarius. So those are some of the major aspects that we have going on. We have an intersection. We have an opposition between Jupiter retrograde and in the sign of Gemini in the 11th house, opposing Pluto in Capricorn in the 6th house. That's making a crossroads with that moon opposition. And it is also intersecting with Mercury in Libra in the 3rd house, opposing Uranus retrograde in the 9th house, final degrees of the 9th house, as in like 29 degrees, right between 29 and 0 degrees 10th house, in the sign of Taurus. And that is actually making an opposition as well to Venus in the sign of Scorpio in the 4th house. We do have a grand trine here. This grand trine is happening between Jupiter retrograde and Gemini in the 11th house, Mercury in Libra in the 3rd house, and this conglomeration, or rather this conjunction between Saturn and Neptune retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And we're going to kind of focus more so on the 7th house, although obviously as Neptune progresses, as time progresses, that will shift. But houses, while they are important, they're not like the most important thing ever. So this grand trine energy that we're engaging with here is largely air. It's mostly air, but we also have some water. So we've talked about this before. I talked about this in today's tea reading earlier today, and I also talked about this when I was talking about Mars being in the sign of Libra. I knew I should have scrubbed my feet when I was in the shower, but I didn't because I was being lazy. And now it's annoying me. But anyway, ooh, yikes. Point is that it's actually more air, so it's more of a mental energy, more of a cerebral energy than it is a water energy and emotional energy, and in some cases that might be helpful, but in other very real ways, like what I said this morning, was that you need to trust your instincts, you need to trust your intuition, you need to listen to your body. What is your body telling you? Okay, whatever your body is telling you is what you need to listen to. Because in terms of keeping you safe, it is more likely that your body knows how to do that more than your brain. Even when you have trauma stored in your body that is causing you to behave in ways that are self-destructive, your body knows when an appropriate time, when you're ready to make a transition in terms of that, those cycles. It knows when it is time to present this information to you because it is safe enough for you to heal, or it is just simply like absolutely necessary for you to heal at this point. So yeah, your body is highly intelligent machinery. By no means, by no stretch of the imagination is it a perfect machine, but it is masterfully crafted. So yeah, and it is a design that is being improved upon every day. But it can really, I would say that like the best way to ensure that it's being improved upon in ways that are generative for your well-being is to actually be present in your body. But at the same time, because this is balanced with air energy, what I'm picking up is it's really easy. The thing about grand trines is like it's easy energy. It comes very easily. So it can be very easy to like, how do you say this? It can be very easy to rationalize things that should not be rationalized. It can be very easy to rationalize your decisions, even though, like, they're actually not beneficial to you, particularly out of fear. And this is a subconscious fear that, like, you're potentially not facing, you're not honoring, you're not accepting that you feel this way. And this is, I can tell this because of the presence of Pisces, and it might be something from a past life, but whatever it is, whatever it is, it's time for it to be transmuted. It's ready to be transmuted. And we know this because of the presence of the North Node and Aquarius sharing the 7th house here. So this is having to do with relationships, it's having to do with contracts, it does have to do with marriage, but particularly business. So it's gonna definitely have to do with money. A lot of the Venusian themes are coming up today in the energy to be, not even just today, but like lately in the past few days. There's a lot having to do with desire, and with Venus being in Scorpio, I do get that this is desire that feels in some way taboo. It feels like, we're not allowed to want this. We're not allowing ourselves to want this. And because it's also the 4th house, it can have to do with transgressions within like the family, or potentially like traditions of like, oh, like we're from here so we don't do that, or like we always do this because we're from here. But what I pick up, especially because it's like Scorpio, is that these are like protecting family secrets, and they've become karmic patterns, and it's time to let that shit go. Okay, because it is causing you to live in a state of restriction, of restricting your light, of holding back on your power. It's very, very karmic. If you came from a lineage of people who have, been afraid to shine their light, tried to dim their light to fit in, or hide themselves to fit in, That's one way that it can be seen. Or another way that it can be seen for me personally is manipulating one's public image in order to get what you want. So it could also be like coming from a family that's all about, you know, their image, and because they're all about their image, they prioritize like just the wrong things, having the wrong values, because Venus also has to do with value. What we value, what we value, essentially our value system. And people often will reduce that to money, but it's actually, I mean, people don't even think that deeply, if I'm being very honest. This is something that I've been able to suss out from years and years of reading astrology professionally, like not professionally over a decade, but like having started learning 12 years ago. This is something that like I've been able to download this information. I really have not ever heard anybody who is like a popular astrologer or who's like pop astrology, quote unquote, saying anything about like our values and our principles having to do with Venus, but it does. And yeah, we have to think also about like, okay, you know, it is important to reevaluate your values and principles every once in a while to just make sure that you are in your integrity. If you don't know what your principles are, your values and your beliefs, for me, I know that unconditional love and unconditional truth, that is my code. And that is Christ consciousness, right? So if it does not align with unconditional truth and unconditional love, then I know that I'm out of alignment. I'm not in integrity. So, you know, you're entitled to be mad at somebody if somebody does something like that transgresses, that's disrespectful, that's rude or whatever. But it is never appropriate to be sexist. It is never appropriate. There's never any excuse to be homophobic, transphobic, racist. You know what I mean? Like, there's never any excuse for that. So if ever I catch myself being like, well, fuck all men and all men deserve this, then like, I know I'm outside of my integrity. And yeah, that's very human to experience that. And you know, I can understand why somebody might feel that way when we live in the cis-hetero patriarchy. I can definitely understand why someone might feel that way. But to quote a book that I refer to consistently and regularly, those kind, not exactly, but the dubious luxury of other men, those kinds of resentments and those kinds of like just that kind of justified anger, quote unquote, that's the dubious luxury of other men. I don't have space in my life to sit around being so low-minded. I don't, because I cannot be comfortable with such garbage in my spirit, in my mind, in my heart. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's important for me to come back to my values and principles regularly. And this is something that's been coming up a lot in the insights as well, is like, people I think are always looking for like, okay, every time anything happens, this is going to be my answer. Like, well, what should I like, you know, what should I believe like in this situation, or what should I do in this situation? I don't know what you should do, but I know that you, in terms of like that specific situation, but I know what always works is showing up for yourself and being present in each specific situation and showing up for that situation fully, which means don't assume that the right solution is going to be the same as it was the last time that this thing happened, or when it happened with this other person, because the circumstances may change. And when you start getting comfortable and resting on your laurels, that's when the adversary can really trip you up and get you caught in a karmic loop, because you're not being present. In order to be self-sovereign, you have to be present, period. You have to be present in your life. And something that I downloaded today is like, those of us who are actually present in our lives have much lower social battery, because it takes a lot of fucking energy to actually show up for your interactions and actually be present for other people and be present in your life. You know what I mean? When you're just going through your life on autopilot, yeah, it doesn't fucking matter, because you're not actually present. Like, you're not using any of your energy to have any interactions. But when you are somebody who actually does show up fully for every experience, you can't show up to everything. You know what I mean? And I'm actually not advocating for one or the other. I do think that, once again, every situation is contingent upon, like, what you do is contingent upon the situation. So, you know, something that one of my mentors told me in terms of like work is sometimes it just needs to get done. You don't have to do it well, it just needs to get done. And for someone like myself who's a perfectionist, like, I'm putting my all into something and they're not even like, especially if they're not even paying me like what I deserve, fuck you. I'm gonna put 10% into it, and that's still gonna be better than what somebody else was gonna do. That's still gonna be better than what you were expecting. And I can give an example of this. My previous 9-to-5 job, you know, I always thought that I was falling behind and I was like floundering. They thought I was doing a fucking amazing job. They did not feel the same way about my performance that I did. So, you know, if I had given infinitesimally less energy and focus and attention to that job, I would have been a lot happier. But I didn't think that way because I didn't have that kind of discernment, and I was trapped in black and white thinking. And this was a time period when I really started to learn how destructive black and white thinking is. We've talked about black and white thinking in the Aetherium and how it is the trap for the DSE. That is how we get controlled. That is how we avail ourselves of low vibrational entities in the 2D, and what gives them quote unquote rights to latch on. Fuck that. You know what I mean? And here's the other thing. If you're concerned about the fact like, oh, you keep getting spiritually attacked, I'll tell you what. You vibrate higher, they won't have access to you because they're not able to access the dimensions in which you exist. Think about this. How many everyday people are actually encountering celebrities? How many everyday people are actually encountering extremely wealthy people? Not very many. In fact, most people will go their entire life never ever meeting anybody like that. Why? Because y'all are in completely different universes, to be quite honest. Every single person that you meet is a universe unto themselves. So if you don't ever have the opportunity, I'm going to explain it like this, actually. In Kid Cudi's memoir, he talks about the first time that he ever met Ye, and it was in Sam Goody in Times Square when he was still broke as fuck, and he just moved to New York, and he was grinding and hustling to make his career pop off. That's when Kid Cudi met Kanye in Sam Goody by complete chance. And then he went on to work with his manager, and he ended up getting signed to Good Music. That was fate. That was fate. That was meant to happen because they were in the same frequency as one another before he even had money. And he amplified that frequency by doing what he needed to do to get to where he is today. We don't need to get into all the specifics of like what he may have done like to get on, or like, you know, any of that shit. That's really not important to what I'm saying right now. We don't need to get into those specifics. But what I can say is this much. I'll give another example. When I first moved to New York, my best friend and I would go party in Meatpacking District. And we were teenagers. And, you know, it was very obvious that we were teenagers. I mean, people think that I'm 20 years old and I'm 30. So when I think about the fact that like I was running around out here, I looked probably like I was 14. So they definitely knew that I was underage. But we had what they wanted, which is that we dressed stylishly. We were very thin and we were really beautiful. So yeah, and we had fake IDs. So we definitely were getting into the club. And, you know, we walked past this one place, which, if you know, 𝗪𝗵𝗱𝗁, the entrance to 𝗪𝗵𝗱 is different from the entrance to Boom Boom Room. But before we even could get on the line, the bouncer was like, you two, come here and just let us go in. And that's not a fucking brag. That's to say we wanted what we wanted, which was to get into this club. And so we showed up for the occasion appropriately and we got what we wanted. And then we got access to more of what we wanted. Back then, you know, we were 18, 19 years old. So, and like ignorant, it was fucking 2012. So yeah, what did we want? We wanted to hang out with models. We wanted to get wasted and like party with celebs. That's what we wanted. And so that's what we made sure that we did. Because we showed up for it. We went to the places that you go to do that. We knew where to go. You see what I mean? Because that's what we valued. We were in resonance with that. Now, I'm fucking 30 years old. That was what? That was 13 years ago. My values have changed. The times have also changed. I don't generally want to be around people like that. I don't generally want to be in those kinds of situations, largely in part because I'm fucking sober 5.5 years. So, you know, what do I value now that like I'm a very different person? My frontal lobe is fully developed, you know, whatever else. What do I value now? Well, I value my education. So and I've always wanted to be an artist. So what do I do? I value my career. I value getting fucking published as a writer. So I spend time investing time and energy into my career. I spend time like reading theory and expanding myself in that way. And you know who doesn't do that? Jealous bitches. People who are not happy because they don't feel like they're successful because they're constantly comparing themselves to other people. And it's like, maybe if you spent half the time that you spend worrying about what the fuck I got going on, if you took even half of that and spent that on actually invested that into what you want for yourself, you would be a lot further than you are today. But here's the thing that we have to remember. A lot of people, one, they don't even know what they want. They just know that they don't want you to have it. They don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to be successful. That's really what it comes down to. And that's that, like, whenever Venus is in Scorpio, I'll tell you what, like, that jealousy shit. And if you have this in your natal chart, it's gonna show up as people being extremely envious and jealous of you. And let me tell you, if you are experiencing this in your life, because that was what came up in the today's tea, it's been up in the energy. I've been talking about like surveillance, about like protecting one's privacy, protecting one's anonymity, etc., etc. It is likely that, like, you just need to remember that jealousy kills. People do kill other people because they're jealous of them. The head of Selena Quintanilha's fan club, Yolanda, is the person who murdered her. So don't get it fucking twisted. And don't be out here acting like you don't know what's up. You don't really know that you're popping like that. Because I know that my collective, the people that I read for, are popping like that. You don't have space to play those games. And when I realized that, that is actually when I started cutting hella people out of my life. If I even get a whiff of that envious energy or that jealous energy, you're fucking out. You're out. Because I know that in your heart, you're manifesting sabotage and destruction for me. Those are the people who will gossip about you. And in every major spiritual practice I know, in every magical tradition I know, gossip is spiritual assassination. And it is on par. It is character assassination. And it is on par with murder. So people who want to be running their mouths, that's what they're up to. People who are talking shit, that's what they're doing. And when it's your friends and they're acting like they're not betraying you, they're going to frame it as like, oh, I'm just trying to be helpful. I'm just trying to understand. No, they're not. They want to talk shit. So that's what they're doing. You need to get away from those kinds of people because you don't know what they're saying to people when you're not around. I remember when I downloaded that about my ex-best friend and my family of origin as a psychic medium, one of my ancestors, my aunt. When I realized I can't engage with my family of origin anymore is because my own ancestors didn't want me engaging with them. And they're their ancestors too. And what I heard in the ethers is, if you only knew what they're saying about you when you're not around. Mind you, I knew what they were saying about me to an extent. And whatever I didn't know, because Spirit hadn't told me, was worse. And what they were saying was already pretty fucking bad. So I say that to say, there's no room, okay? Let me also say, and I've talked about this many, many times when Venus was retrograde, because I do believe we have a Venus retrograde coming up this month. When Venus was retrograde in the sign of Scorpio in 2020, a girl... I saw this on Twitter, a girl, her friends murdered her. Mind you, there was another girl who got murdered at a hotel in like Chicago and was like found in the icebox in the crew quarters. But this girl, I think this one was in Atlanta. But isn't it really interesting how multiple of these stories, and when you look at these girls' photos, they're beautiful young ladies. And to me, when I saw the girl that I'm thinking of, when I saw her photo, I knew immediately that her quote-unquote friends had murdered her. So when I say jealousy kills, and that's the term that surfaced for me, and that Selena Quintanilla example, that's when that surfaced for me. And it comes up every single Venus in Scorpio, Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and it's coming up again. Parasites are coming up, and I talked about this in a channeled message. I think I did it yesterday. I don't know if I uploaded it, but if I didn't, I will. These people, like, if you're continually getting like parasites, candida overgrowth, BV, all this kind of stuff, if your hormones are imbalanced, etc., and like you're doing everything that you can to mitigate this, but you just cannot like get this under control, I'm gonna tell you why. It's because you have parasites, spiritual parasites, manifesting in your so-called friends, family, co-workers, what have you, and they are draining your energy. They're draining your creative power. They are draining your life force. They are draining your magic. They are draining your feminine energy. They're draining your prana and your chi. I'm telling you, jealousy kills. And they know what they're doing. I personally experienced this at my last job, not my last professional job, but it was just a fucking side, like, what do they call it? Just service job, And it was making me experience, trigger warning, suicidal ideation, and just completely destroying my fucking mental health. Because exactly that type of shit was going on. Exactly that type of shit. So if you know that this is happening, I'm going to tell you this is some let go or be dragged type of energy. These people are being revealed. And this is why I pulled the moon card this morning. These people, these snakes in the grass are being revealed to you. So stop wasting your time trying to rationalize the behaviors of these people. Why they do that? Why they do this? Who knows the fuck why? Because they're crazy. That's why. They're sick. That's why. And you know why? Because you cannot be self-sovereign when you're not self-possessed. And if you're not self-possessed, what is possessing you? Shaitan. Period. This is why there is an epidemic of narcissism in this society today. And what is narcissism if not energy vampirism? You're being offered your divine counterpart timeline, North Node in Aquarius, on a platter. In the 7th house here, with Saturn and Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde is between 0 and 1 degrees of the 8th house, which is saying you have to choose differently how to bring your life into balance. And it's not going to feel like how you think it's going to feel. Because I know for myself this is true, and I'm sure this is true for others. You know, we hear what it's going to be like on the spiritual journey. And when you first start out, yeah, it's like, oh my God, I feel so zen, I'm meditating, da-da-da-da-da. But if you're really ranked up, at some point it gets to be like you are fucking fighting for your life and a lot of other people's lives on the front lines of a spiritual war. And it's not fun. And you don't enjoy it. And you're praying that it's going to end soon. Like today, if you're actually ranked up. That's what life is like. So, you know, when we hear like, oh yeah, like we're gonna have to get into balance, it's not some eat, pray, love shit. It's not some Oprah Winfrey magazine shit. Like, this is real life. You know, when the rubber hits the road. That's another term I've been channeling a lot. So this is crossroads energy here. And obviously we have a pretty aggressive crossroads here that I've already spoken about. We have a pretty aggressive crossroads. And this energy here between the 7th and 8th with Aquarius and Pisces. So yeah, it's just, it's about you choosing to heal yourself by doing differently. And it's going to feel maybe antithetical because it's going to feel like you're stepping away from things. You're cutting things off. And I've been saying, past 2 days, you might want to do some cord removals. I get that shit OD. You might want to do some cord removals, and it's going to feel like antithetical, but in reality, the more that you step away from these situations that are no longer resonant, it may have been aligned for you last year or even last month, but it's not anymore. And even if you don't have logical evidence and proof, tangible proof in reality or like in the 3D to present to people, other people's opinion of how you live your life really is not relevant because they're not you. And they're not privy to the information that you are because, once again, like I said, they're not you. You feel me? So this is really what it's giving. I guess I want to speak to the practical things with this moon. Obviously, there's an opportunity for greater material prosperity. But for me, what it's looked like is cutting people out of my life who are, one, dishonest, primarily emotionally dishonest, and two, people who are materialistic. And I'll put it this way, like, my mom is a Taurus, and she's the kind of Taurus who feels like she can get away with doing disrespectful shit if she gives you stuff. And if she can, like, give you stuff, then you are beholden to her so she can manipulate you. And I don't play that shit. Nothing in this world is going to make me beholden to anybody, so I don't care. You know what I mean? And I had a friend who was very much like this, because they feel less than. They give a lot of stuff so that you can be beholden to them. And it's like, well, you know, I did so much for this person. I gave so much to this person. Okay, so you were manipulating them with your actions and with your so-called gifts, because you expected in return that they were going to be quote unquote loyal to you no matter what. And maybe you thought that that was unconditional love, and it's not. That's just being manipulative. And so this kind of materialism, and just people who are so focused on the material life and not putting the spiritual life first. And we know that that's in the Aetherium, we talk about this, that's putting the wagon before, or the cart before the horse. Where the fuck do you think you're going if you put your cart in front of the horse? You're not going anywhere. But are you going to be the fool who sits with the jackass who does something like that? Sit there and be mad that things are not progressing for you when it's like, well, yeah, because you tied your wagon to their star, and they're the kind of star that puts, first of all, don't do that. You need to be the star of your own life. And then they're not even somebody who's capable of progressing in this world, which should have been clear to you when you saw that they had a wagon in front of their horse and were expecting to go somewhere. Because how does that make any sense? So it really is about accountability. And I know, because, like, I've been here before. Like, you know, as I said, justifiable anger is the dubious luxury of other men. If you really want to be sovereign, and you really want to co-create your reality, and you really want to get onto your divine counterpart timeline, you really can't just sit around being sad about what happened in the past. You gotta get fucking moving. And you gotta transmute that shit. I'm not saying move on and don't do the work to heal it, because that is self-sabotage. Pretend that it didn't happen. That's not how this works. But I am saying that, like, you know, what people did in the past, if they're not in your life anymore and you're no longer in those dynamics anymore, you just have to let it go. If they are still in your life, get rid of them. If they haven't changed. If they have changed, you know, you have the opportunity to rewrite your narrative for the here and now. If you still have dynamics that reflect that harmful pattern, stop contributing to those. Remove yourself from those kinds of relationships. Period. It is really about being your own inner loving parent. About being the sovereign. It can't just be about, oh, like, the world happening to me. It cannot. And I'll tell you what, one other thing, that is going to be the shit. Like, you can be in the fucking trenches and people will still be hating from their fucking castle when you are the type of person who has the initiative and the drive, the willingness and the wisdom to transmute your life of absolute BS into gold, because they know that they don't have any of that. They don't have the willingness, and they don't have the dignity or self-respect, because if you want to sit around being a victim all day, you do not have dignity, nor do you respect yourself. Here in the Aetherium, what are we doing? We are pursuing self-sovereignty. and self-sovereignty means that we are victorious. We are not victims. Life presents us with a crossroads, and we evolve higher instead of going around that karmic circle and allowing ourselves to get sucked into misery helixes. You become your own champion. At a certain point, it's like, yeah, you know something, life isn't fair and it should be this other way. But guess what? It's not. It's not. So you better fucking figure out how you're going to make it work. And that is one of the things that, like, I see the most in leftist communities, in communities of people who consider themselves to be, you know, politically progressive and things like this. This is what sabotages a lot of those movements these days, is the inability to exist in reality with the rest of us. And that is going to sabotage your co-creations, or as they like to say in pop spirituality, manifestations. So, is there anything else that needs to be talked about from this chart? Protect your neck is what I'm hearing. It's a lot of people who they don't want you to express yourself, period. They don't want your genuine expression in the world. And I'm going to say, have compassion for those people. And I would even encourage you to pray for those people, because the thing about it, most of the time when people are like that, actually I would say all of the time, they are possessed. They're possessed of a spirit. Jezebel entity maybe. But definitely a spirit of envy and hate, whatever you want to call it. They're not in their sovereignty, and most of these people are also, like, dissociated. So the decisions that you make while you're dissociated are not even conscious decisions. You still have to be accountable to them, but if I were you, I would just feel sorry for those people and remove access, period. The reason why they don't want you to express your truth is because the more of us that express our truths and live authentically, the more we disintegrate the false matrix in the ethers, essentially, is how I would say that. So it's kind of like Harry Potter in the 7th, in one of the Deathly Hallows movies, when, actually this might be in the 6th movie, the Half-Blood Prince, when Dumbledore is killed by Severus Snape, and Bellatrix Lestrange puts the dark mark up into the sky, and I think it's Professor McGonagall is the first one to Lumos and, like, shoot a, like, light into the sky, and all of the students and everybody at the school starts, like, using their wands to use their light to remove the dark mark from the sky. That is what it is like when we show up authentically as who we were born to be, as an expression, an embodiment of the divine spark. That is what that is like. So of course they don't want you to. And people who operate subconsciously, they're not actually consciously making any of their decisions. They just walk through life not thinking about shit. These kinds of people who embody this violent colonialism, and we talked about this morning with the today's tea, these kinds of people, they're going to be a vessel to attack you, to keep you from doing that. Do it anyway. They're a weak ass bitch. Okay, you're the one with the power. It's like a little chihuahua trying to get into a fight with a mastiff. Okay, like, I can bite your head clean off your body type shit. But I'm not going to do that. When you have an older dog that's, like, very big, and they're like, I've been around the block a few times, like, and they're mad chill, and they're just like, get the fuck out of here type shit. Like, that's what this energy is giving. Don't bother with any of that. Just let them rack up all that bad karma for themselves. Let them continue sabotaging their lives, the lives of the people that they love, their future incarnations. Let them keep on doing that shit. Yeah, I love to see it. I don't love to see it, actually. I would like that nobody has to be in such a low state of being. But, you know, I'm not the one who wrote the laws of the universe. So I really feel like that's like the biggest message that I'm getting is like from this, it is a full moon because it's an opposition. What I'm getting is that this full moon is illuminating all of these dynamics that are draining you, that are destructive for you. And it's offering you the opportunity to move away from these dynamics, to let these timelines go, and to level up into your most sovereign self. And I would encourage you to go ahead and seize the day, seize that moment, take that leap of faith, because even though it's really scary, nothing worth having was easily gotten. That is definitely my experience, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know who said that, I don't know where I picked that up, but I know that, like, I picked it up when I was reading a lot of philosophy back in the days, when I still had a brain to read anything that was not from school. This is about reclaiming your personal power, and it is going to heal you, because we don't tend to think about like our interpersonal relationships and dynamics as part of our routine, but it is. And when we are in relationships that are out of alignment, our patterns and our behaviors and our routines start to reflect that, and our health does deteriorate. So in these subtle little ways, it's like that friend who every time you go around them, y'all go out and get drinks and you get fucked up. You always get fucked up whenever you go out with them, and you do all the bad things that you don't want to do. That's what this is giving. That's that energy. You become a person that you don't want to be, that you don't respect. And that is a form of self-harm. So we're reclaiming our power and our agency and our sovereignty, because we're not doing that anymore. Yeah, I mean, I think I've said all that really need be said. And for me, you know, when I do my readings, this is the root of the problem. So if you're having money blockages, this is what you need to know, period. This is going to resolve that for you. Romance, any kind of blockages you're experiencing in your life, if you address this, that prosperity is going to flow into your life very rapidly. And if you actually have the eyes to see it, that is, you have a grateful heart and mind, you're going to start seeing those blessings manifest in your life very, very quickly. In fact, because for me, whenever I release a relationship that is not serving me, the first thing that I notice is how peaceful my life is, and how much lighter I feel now that I don't have this thing bedeviling me. You know what I mean? So give yourself that freedom and space with South Node in Leo. Whatever pride is keeping you, like, whatever kind of way that you want to be seen, how you want to present yourself to people, fuck all that shit. Like, just be real. That's really what it comes down to. Just be real. Stay on top of your health. That's really important. Like, your physical health for sure, but the best thing that you can do to be of service to your physical health is to take care of your these other aspects, because as we know, it is first the spiritual, then the mental and emotional, and then the material. That's how it goes. And you know, it's top to bottom manifestation, as I like to call it, and that truth never fails. So I hope that this was helpful. I know that whoever watches this, like, it is going to resonate and it is going to be helpful, because I also know that I carry these codes in my voice, in my throat, in my everything that I do, because it's in my bone marrow. My magic, my powers are in my bone marrow. It's in my DNA. So every single, just my mere existence carries this exorcist power. And, I do feel like it's going to clarify a lot for you, whoever you are. Yeah, and I would also say don't worry about, like, if you feel like, in terms of, like, gang stalking stuff and, like, that kind of manipulation, really don't worry about that, because our karmic sentence is being transmuted, is what I'm hearing. And in the sense of, like, when someone commutes a sentence, that's what I'm picking up with Mars and Ophiuchus in the 4th house. And yeah, if you had witches in your family who were literally making you the scapegoat, whether that is like a larger lineage bloodline that you are a part of but not like immediate descendants, like shared ancestor type shit, or whether that is like your extended family or what have you. Yeah, if you were like made the scapegoat through magic, if you were sold into spiritual slavery, like etc., like all of these karmic contracts are fucking over now, and divine justice is coming in swiftly. So stop identifying with those karmic relationships, those karmic groups of people, like behaviors, thought patterns. Stop identifying with all of that shit. Self-sovereign, self-contained, period, because that is what's going to set you free. So I love you all truly and deeply. I hope that this was helpful. If you want to book a session with me, you can do so through my Ko-Fi, which is in the description box. I don't know if I'm offering energy work right now, but you can definitely book divination with me. So email me before you book an oracle healing session. Otherwise, feel free to book a session with me through Ko-Fi. And yeah, happy hunting.